Today's video, we're going to go over how we can keep our necks nice and strong and healthy. A lot of the time we hear complaints about there being neck and shoulder tension, the classic sitting at a desk job, doing too much of this, shoulders in, head sitting forward. What I want to spend a bit of time on today is not the stretching side of it. You can find 1,000 different ways to stretch your neck with a little bit of time on your hands and trust your friend Google. What I want to spend a bit of time on is actually strengthening our necks, because we find that's actually the bit which is lacking more so than the stretching side of it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is our trusty overball. Okay, now if you don't have an overball, what you can use is a cushion. Okay, I don't want it to be a big cushion, it needs to be reasonably thin. So if we look at this overball, it's actually quite deflated. I can press into it and my hands are close to each other, but they're never going to touch. Okay, so you've got to find the equivalent to that, which you've got at home. Okay, and I've got myself set up on some boxes today to make it a bit easier to see. So all we're going to do is lie on our backs, and we're going to have the ball underneath the backs of our heads. Okay, nice and simple. So in this position, my head can relax comfortably on the ball. Okay, now the ball is there to free up a little bit of mobility. Okay, so it's almost like how little ball bearings act in machinery, how they create a little bit of freedom and fluidity with the movement. Okay, so initially we're just going to completely relax our neck and just let the head hang into the ball, and as you do, you should hopefully be able to feel a bit of tension stripping away from the muscles around your neck and your shoulders. Now you don't have to be up on a box like this, you can do this on the floor. This is just to help make it easier for people to see the series of exercises. Okay, now once things start to relax a little bit, then we're going to use the tip of our nose to imagine drawing some shapes on the ceiling. Okay, now the easiest one to start with is just a really simple nodding movement up and down. Okay, now as you're nodding your head up and down, I want as much movement as you can do for as little effort as possible. Okay, so I still want you very relaxed as you're going through the movement. Okay, and what we often see here is people really want to hinge their head back and kind of arch the back a little bit, and same in the flexion, they want to pull in and push their stomachs up towards the ceiling. Okay, I just want to get your head moving, so don't worry about making it so big the rest of your body joins in. Let's just start on getting your head moving all on its own. Okay, once you've done a good 20 to 30 little nodding movements, then you can do the same thing going side to side. Okay, so now we're drawing a line across the top of the ceiling there. Again, you might do that 20, maybe 30 times, depending on how much time you need to actually relax and let the muscles switch off. Cool. And then the next one we'd do is some circles. Okay, and again, they don't have to be big by any means. This is not about trying to stretch the neck. This is about trying to show your brain that it can move with as little muscle as possible. So the muscles that are going to be working are our deepest local muscles that help to stabilize the spinal vertebra and our skull, as opposed to our big muscles, which actually do a lot of the heavy lifting and the big gross movements. Cool. And again, you might do a good 10 to 12 movements each way, depending on how you feel. Okay, and those are all just examples. I'm really happy for you to draw lots of different shapes. Okay, as long as the theme is consistent and that it's trying to be relaxed and then gradually increasing the range, then I'm happy for you to play with whatever shapes work for you. Okay, part two is now actually starting to strengthen up the muscles. Okay, so we're going to train some of the reflexes in and around our neck. Okay, the first one is called the vestibular cochlear reflex. Basically, we're going to try and push back and squash the ball or the cushion with our head, trying to feel the muscles in the back of our neck actually working. And this helps to encourage a little bit of awareness of our head sitting backwards over our body a little bit. So you might do that for 5 to 10 seconds, reasonably vigorously at about a 5 to a 6 out of 10 in terms of effort. And then you relax. Cool, and then we're going to contrast that by trying to lift our head ever so slightly off the ball. It doesn't actually have to lose contact with the ball. It's more about just taking the pressure of our heads off the ball, okay? So I'm going to again just lift the head ever so slightly. You can clearly see my head still touching the ball, but I feel a lot more work running down the front of my neck now, trying to hold my head up against gravity because I have no weight on the ball whatsoever. Okay, and again, 5 to 10 seconds here, and then relaxing back down. Now that movement in particular, the head lifting, can be quite uncomfortable for people because it's such a foreign experience. Okay, it's not going to necessarily do you any damage unless you have underlying pre-existing neck conditions, which you probably want to have a chat to an allied health professional about. But if you're just generally a bit tight through your neck, it's actually a really good thing to work the muscles because they're probably just a little bit tired of being on stretch the whole time. Okay, so keep practicing movement between those two positions. So slowly press your head back into the ball. Now notice how my head is just in a neutral position. We're not trying to tuck your chin in. I don't want you looking back. It's just in a comfortable middle position. 5, maybe 10 seconds there at a 5 out of 10 in terms of effort. And then relax and do the same thing again coming forward. Just take the pressure off the ball. Very small lift, okay? As soon as you feel the pressure of your head coming off the ball, you can relax there. Good. Now, it will feel funny in your neck for a day or two afterwards. Again, just we're not used to it, but as with any exercise, the more of it that you do, the easier it will become. As you get more confident with it after a couple of weeks, we then add movement to it, okay? So the first exercise would be to press back, and as you're pressing back, do tiny little nods of your head up and down. Again, 5 or 10 seconds of that, and then same as you bring your head up, okay? So you hold your head up and do tiny little nods of your head up and down. Good, and relax back down. And you might change that with your head going side to side or drawing circles. Okay, so it's all the same exercises, we just change where the load is. Okay, so right at the very beginning, no load, just trying to get your head moving, relaxing onto the ball. Then we work on pressing back and forward, wake up the fronts and backs of our neck, and then you add that to the original movements that we started with. Okay, and again, you might build this up over a couple of weeks. So I definitely don't want you doing it all in one hit. Okay, try and gradually build up your strength and your tolerance to it. Okay, but every time go for a good 5 or 10 seconds with each movement. And if you're doing the nodding and turning head movements, try and do maybe half a dozen of those each time. Just see how it feels. Okay, once you're comfortable with that, take the ball away. Just relax your head flat onto the floor. Okay, it'll feel like it's in quite a different position now after being up on that ball and giving yourself a little bit of extra lift. Okay, you just want to make sure your neck feels all right. Okay, the next part of this is going to be something that you would approach after a good few weeks of doing it, is actually using the edge of the box here to try and get a bit more movement through your neck and shoulders. All right, so we're going to set you up on an elevated surface so that the backs of your shoulders are resting on the surface, but your head is hanging off the edge. Okay, and you're just going to let your head hang back. Okay, now with your hands and legs, I'd recommend holding onto your hands and legs like this. And all we're going to do is tuck the chin in and then curl the head and shoulders up, okay, until you're looking at your belly button, and then slowly let your head and shoulders drop back off the edge. And then when you're hanging back there, just relax your head, gentle rock side to side as much as you feel comfortable with. And then again, chin to chest, curling your head and shoulders up, looking at your belly button. Cool. And you might do that again a good half dozen times. I'd recommend starting with smaller repetitions and again building your tolerance up to it. You don't have to do a lot of it because your neck is relatively small structure. I'd recommend, again, starting with just half a dozen or so, making sure that it does feel okay to do, and then gradually building up your tolerance from there. And then the last thing I generally recommend people to do if they're coming in with stiff neck and shoulders is hang. Okay, find a tree, go to a local playground, use a door frame, maybe you've got a banister at your home with some stairs, anything that's going to get your arms up, and you just hold on to that. Bend your knees so that you take the body weight into your shoulders. You can still have your feet on the ground, but just let your body weight just hang into your shoulders. Take some nice deep breaths. Really try and get your rib cage moving as much as you can. And you might hold that for 10, maybe 15 seconds. Just repeat that process a handful of times. As your tolerance to that load builds up, then you can do some one arm stuff. Same deal. Okay, give it a good 10, maybe 15 seconds on each arm. And then you can gradually build up to doing both arms, but taking all of the weight into your shoulders while your feet coming off the floor. Okay, you can do that with one arm one day. It's pretty hard. I wouldn't recommend it straight away, but you can definitely build up to it. And as long as you can still breathe, that's a really important thing. If you stop being able to breathe, then it's too much. Okay, you've got to go back to the point where you can take the load, you can breathe deeply, and you can ultimately still relax into it.